God.
No, he has to know
God.
before. And this was nevertheless, he prescribed each of them something a little bit discomfort.
Just stay in the corner. Oh my God, hey! I don't know why I've been starting my videos like that. I feel like I sound super stupid, but I probably do sound stupid. All right, so anyway, part 2 to making baby shoes. So at this point, you should have your fabrics, you should have your snaps, your threads, as well as maybe like a fabric marker or a pen, and of course your pattern pieces. For this demonstration, I'm gonna be using 3 to 6 months, but again, you're free to use any size you want. The instructions are gonna be the same for any size that you make, so it should be fine. All right, so we're gonna be cutting out our fabric. All right, so to cut this out, you're going to line up the long side of your top layer with the selvage edge of your fabric. It's gonna be this woven side. And now you want to cut out 4 pieces of this pattern. So an easier and faster way to cut the 4 pieces is to take your fabric, fold it in half, and then put your pattern piece right on top of it, and then cut that out. So when you cut this out, it's going to simultaneously cut 2 pieces at the same time. All right, so you remember that little dot that's on your pattern piece? Well, we're gonna have to transfer that to all of your fabric pieces. So what I like to do is I take a pin and I stick it right in the center of that little dot marker. So now I'm gonna take a fabric pencil or marker and I'm just going to mark where the pin enters the fabrics. All right, so now we're gonna cut the sole of your shoe out. So we're gonna line it up against the selvage edge of our fabric. You wanna cut out 4 pieces. So after you get your sole cut out, remember that little indication that I had you put on your pattern so that you could tell which one was the inner corner of your foot? Well, we're gonna take that and we're gonna transfer some marks. Similar to like what we did with the pin, you're gonna do like the exact same thing. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy, just something to let you know and to indicate that that's going to be the inner side. The inner? Oh my God, that's going to be the inner side of your foot. So at this point, it's probably a good idea to layer your pieces together. That way you don't get them confused with like 2 left feet, 2 right feet. Taking your top layer, we're gonna sew the entire inside of the top layer using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now you wanna layer your pieces with the right sides facing each other. And when you get to the top layer of this buckle, you wanna sew straight across. Okay, so for this next step, you need to be very, very careful. So you wanna take this top layer that you just sewed up, and you wanna take a pair of scissors, and then you're going to make tiny clips where there are curves. It'll help to ease bulk and let this turn inside out pretty easily. You wanna clip 2, but not through your stitches. You also wanna clip your inner corners. And now we can turn this thing inside out. So, as with any project, it is important to iron as you go. It'll help your project stay nice and smooth so it's easy to work with. All right, so now we get to take this back to our machine and top stitch. If you don't know what that is, it's really simple. You're gonna take this to your machine and you're gonna sew about 1/8 of an inch away from the seam that you just sewed up. So this helps to keep the fabric from rolling out of place and keeps everything nice and orderly. All right, so if you're using contrasting fabrics, you want to turn your sole so that you have the bottom layer of your sole facing up. So basically, you want the right sides facing each other, and you also want to make sure that the buckle of your shoe is going in the opposite direction of those marks that you put on the inner side of your foot. So to line these things up, you want to match the dots on both pieces. So make sure that you match those little dots because this is going to be very important to line up your shoe. So now we can take some pins and pin the top layer around our sole. So when you get to this little area where your pieces overlap each other, you want to tuck your buckle inside of the shoe so that this little hook part is actually on top of the buckle, and then you can pin it in place. So what I did to kind of keep from sewing up that buckle was I rolled it a little bit and I tucked it inside of the shoe, and that kind of kept it away from anywhere that I was going to be sewing. Take this to your machine and now you're going to sew all the way around the sole. All right, let's take a quick breather for a second. This part's going to be super sucky to sew, just so you know. So when you're sewing this up, you're going to have to go around that little heel of your sole. And that sucker is so small that it's really hard to get your fabric to turn around that really sharp corner. So what I did was I took some scissors and I made super tiny little clips around the heel, and this just helps to ease in the fabric around that really sharp curve. But you have to be careful not to cut too much. Just like we did earlier with clipping the corners, you want to clip to, but not through. And I would also recommend maybe, I think all machines are like this, but you can manually like turn your machine wheel or turn something, and that just lets you sew manually on your machine versus like pressing the pedal down. I think going as slow as possible around this curve is really going to help you out. So comes the fun part, putting snaps on. So these are snaps. So your first piece is going to be this. It's got like 2 little sticks on the side of a hole, and that is where your snap is going to snap into. And then you have your other piece, which is this little nub part, and that is what's going to snap into your other snappy thing. And then that's how the snaps work. So take your shoe, and then you want to lay your buckle over your shoe, following the natural curve of the shoe. And now we're gonna lift up a little piece of the buckle, take a fabric pen or a marker, and make a little mark on both sides, just like this. All right, so now we're gonna take a double-threaded needle. We're going to pierce it through our shoe, right through that little mark that we made. So take your needle, pierce it back through your fabric, and this time we're gonna go a little bit a ways away from our little knot that we have. And you wanna make sure that your needle is going to be able to go straight through one of the holes in your snap. Take your needle all the way through your shoe. And now you wanna make 2 more loops on your snap. So put your needle through the shoe again, and this time we're gonna go above the hole, and then we're gonna come right back in through the center. And we'll do this another time. And you just wanna make like 2 to 3 quick loops around each of these holes. So to make a knot to tie this off so it doesn't come, apart, you wanna take your needle and get a little piece of fabric. And then you're gonna pull your needle through. You wanna stop until you got a little piece of thread still sticking out. And you want to take your needle, go through the loop, and that should create a knot. I like to create another one just to be secure. So you're going to be attaching your other snap with the little nub the exact same way. If you want to kind of hide your stitches, that way you don't see them on the underside, instead of putting your needle all the way through your fabric, just pick up a little itty bitty piece of fabric and try not to go through both layers. All right, so at this point, it's basically done. Like I mentioned earlier, I did put a little button just to kind of add a little accessory to it. So how was it? Was it hard? I feel like it wasn't that hard. I think I just talked it up as being a little bit difficult, and like I said, it's a really good gift if you're going to like a baby shower or something. It's a really sentimental piece. You could even like embroider initials on it. So I'm gonna go. I hope this was fun, and I will be here for our next lesson.